What's up, guys? Approximately 3 months ago now, I recorded a video on the topic of Bank of Canada interest rate hikes that are undoubtedly in the pipeline for 2022 and how I expect these rate hikes to affect housing. I'll link that video in the description below, but I will say that my views have changed since that recording. I was wrong. I have no problem saying this. I love being honest with my audience. In my original video, I forecasted the Bank of Canada to increase interest rates 3 to 4 times and be rather passive in their fight against inflation. Well, Bank of Canada so far, with their messaging and with their actions, have done the complete opposite. They've come out firing. We've had 3 interest rate announcement dates, and Bank of Canada has raised interest rates twice so far. Once by a quarter basis point, and the last hike was 50 basis points, which is the first oversized rate hike in nearly 20 years. Bank of Canada overnight rate now sits at 1%. And do they expect to raise it further? Well, you better believe it, yeah. Bank of Canada have gone out and openly said that they're aiming to hit a neutral interest rate. A neutral interest rate is an interest rate that neither encourages or discourages economic activity, which they project to be between 2 and 3%. So for the purposes of our conversation, let's split that down the middle and assume that by the end of 2022, we'll be sitting at overnight rate of 2.5%. So up another 1.5% from where we are today. And that would actually equate to 9 quarter-point interest rate hikes for the entirety of 2022, which is triple, 3 times what I predicted. I am of the belief that if this does happen, we are going to see some incredible economic pain, specifically in the housing market. Canada is one of the most indebted nations in the world, and Canadians piled on mortgage debt over the past 2 years at a rate never seen before, to the tune of $150 billion a year. Previous record high was $75 billion, so twice as much. Now with these aggressive interest rate hikes, Canadians are actually set to pay the highest percentage of their monthly household income towards debt servicing by first quarter of 2023. That is the projection by a major Canadian financial institution. So with the 2 interest rate hikes we've seen already, I am noticing a significant correction in housing. Here's a chart that I'm going to put on your screen, and we can all agree that the peak madness, peak prices were February 2022. Since then, certain neighborhoods around the GTA have come down up to 20%. Here's another chart for your reference showing all 4 housing types. So detached, semi-towns, and condos. Areas that saw the quickest run-ups in prices, so your suburban homes, homes that are very far away from a city core, are getting hit the hardest and will continue to get hit the hardest. Our housing market is largely investor and sentiment driven. And when sentiment is challenged, that housing prices only go up and investors begin to thin out simply because of higher mortgage payments, higher HELOC payments, higher car payments, just a more expensive life, higher gas bills, groceries, etc. We are going to see a significant slowing of sales. I predict gradual downward price discovery for the entirety of 2022 in the housing market. Now, not all areas will be equal, of course. Keep in mind, central locations and transit-oriented locations won't be affected as much. However, I do expect suburbs to get hit all throughout 2022. The big question is that we all want an answer to is, how long will this cycle last of interest rate hikes? Well, there's a big unknown equation, and that is the Bank of Canada. Most of you guys, all of you guys, should be paying attention to the Bank of Canada and their monetary policy. How long will inflation continue to run hot? How long, or how many, I should say, interest rate hikes is the Bank of Canada going to be able to do before economy starts to show cracks? Cracks such as increasing unemployment figures, significant downtrend in housing, and a significant slowing economy until the Bank of Canada has to react, reposition, and potentially enter a rate lowering cycle once again in order to stimulate the economy. One thing I know for sure is that Canadians are deeply in love with housing. There will be a time over the next year or so, in my opinion, where smart investors will begin scooping up real estate in large quantities once again. There are still many reasons at the end of the day to be optimistic about housing. Our government's record high immigration targets, for example, interest rates technically still being negative, and rents that are trending higher and higher, as you can see per this report. Personally, I see this as a period of relatively short-term pain for overall stability and long-term gain. A few of you guys have reached out to me and asked me about prices in pre-construction and whether I'm starting to see them come down or not. One thing that you must realize, and that I know after working for a builder for nearly a decade, is that builders can weather these type of economic environments a lot better than the average investor. Therefore, builders will not give up their profit margins that easily. They're going to sit on inventory. They're okay with selling the project for a little bit longer, for maybe a year or so. Like lately, they've been spoiled. Pre-construction projects have been getting sold out over a day or two. Well, the reality that I'm familiar with is pre-construction projects that take a year or two to sell out. There was going to be a sales office, there's going to be a presentation gallery, there's going to be, you're going to be given all the tools that you're no longer have been presented with over the past 2 years. So if you're considering buying pre-construction today, the one takeaway that I want you to have from this video is if the project makes sense, if the prices make sense, if the location makes sense, and if the deposit works for you, then there's no reason to be looking away from pre-construction. The reality is that we're currently finding ourselves in a tightening cycle, a rate hiking cycle. As all of you guys already know, pre-construction can take 3 to 4 to 5 years to complete. The odds is that by the time the condo that you had purchased in pre-construction is completed, the Bank of Canada and our economy is going to be in a completely different place and very likely in a rate lowering cycle. Let me know if you agree or disagree with some of the points I made in this video. I'd love to hear your opinions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.